Grace and peace to you from God our Creator and our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ.
Amen.
Amen. Now, when I was a kid, my mama always told me this: stop pointing at people. It's rude, inappropriate. And then normally she would grab my finger or slap it, or one of those sorts. But is it really this whole pointing thing? Well, in my vast research that I did this week called the Internet, pointing rudeness in primitive days meant that you were considering to administer a hex on someone. Others have also said that this pointing action also placed the blame upon someone for some disgraceful deed that they performed. So also some people say that pointing is okay if you are pointing at things or animals, but never towards people. That is considered a no-no. But nevertheless, pointing is this amazing thing. I guess it's okay. Uncle Sam says it's all right, especially when he wants us to join the U.S. Army. Smokey the Bear says it's all right for us to, only you can prevent forest fires, right? But clearly here in our gospel, the Jewish priests and Levites missed the memo on pointing rudeness, saying, "Who are you, John the Baptist?" "Well, I'm not the Messiah," he proclaims. "Well, what then? Are you the Messiah? Are you one of the prophets? All right, speak up. Who are you?" What do you say about yourself? And John the Baptist speaks, verse 23 of our text. He is quoting from Isaiah, saying, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord." In other words, John the Baptist is forcing those who are pointing at him to point someplace else. To put it another way, he is the ringmaster that shouts out to pay attention to the greatest attraction that is yet to come. Stop pointing at me. I am just a voice, getting you ready for the one who is coming after me, who will change your life, who will transform your heart, and will cause you to experience unending love like you've never experienced before. So when you are pointing your fingers, look to the manger. Look to the cross. But more importantly, look inside of yourself most importantly. That's where you should be pointing. Yet as we talk about pointing, whether it is appropriate or not, I wonder if we too are like those priests and Levites, pointing where we shouldn't be pointing. What do I mean? Exodus 22 and 3 says this: "You have no other gods before me." Meaning that's the first commandment of our 10. Yet how many times do we point to those things that cause us brokenness in our life, and then we let those things consume us and become the very sense of the things that we are wishing the most, or those things that we are worshiping the most. And I know those things in our life that consume us, it is hard to deal with. But sometimes it is our job and our stress that causes all of these things, to point other places than Jesus. So sometimes it is your work that causes you to point elsewhere. Sometimes it is an illness that takes over your bodies and your thoughts. Sometimes it is those relationships that, aren't quite perfect. Sometimes it could be anything that draws our attention elsewhere. So if that's the case, rather than pointing at those suffocating things within our life, listen to what John the Baptist makes note of. He says these words from Isaiah: "I am the voice of the one crying out in the wilderness. Here, John the Baptist, dressed in his camel's hair, his leather belt, scruffy looks, eating weird bugs or whatever those locust things are. He was a voice in the wilderness of brokenness, speaking truth. And in speaking this truth, people came to hear him, disregarding everything of how he looked and where he lived, or maybe even how he smelled. They were longing to hear this truth, for his words were the ones that they needed in their life. For they were crying out for wholeness. They were crying out for a Messiah. In other words, instead of pointing, we should be pleading out of our own wilderness to our God to come and save us from our rocky and crooked paths, to lift up every valley to a plain surface that we're going through. And you know, it is about time those mountains and hills, we can maybe see the other side. So, what you are saying out of your wilderness, take a note to it. But also note this. Does your voice point to Jesus in your daily life? The one who lightens your darkness, the one who has conquered sin and death, the one who makes you whole. Is that your voice that you speak? For others in your life are listening to you and wondering what they should cry out themselves in the midst of their darkness. So stop this frivolous pointing. It's rude anyway. Mama taught you better. Start, though, crying out, singing out, and shouting out to the great things that God has done. Cry out and sing out and shout out to our God in Jesus, who completes you. And may God continue to bless you as we prepare and listen for his coming this Advent season. Got it. Amen.